Great Smoky Mountains National Park is America's most visited national park, attracting millions of visitors every year. So, during our trip through Tennessee and North Carolina, we set out to discover what makes the Smokies so special.
Between the mountains, scenic drives, historic homesteads, wildlife, waterfalls, and some very unpredictable but atmospheric weather, we quickly learned why so many people love this place. In fact, we are already planning a return trip.
We're Ryan and Manuel, and these are the places that made us fall in love with Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
If someone asked us, what is the one place I absolutely have to visit if I only have a few hours in the Smokies? Well, we would say Cades Cove.
Cades Cove is a beautiful valley with open meadows, forests, historic buildings, trails, and plenty of wildlife. And driving along the 11-mile one-way road that circles through it is an absolute must-do. Our biggest piece of advice when visiting is to start early, as it can get very busy and traffic congestion is very common. We started the drive at about 7 a.m. and we are so happy that we did, as the whole experience was very calm and the valley was covered with a gentle morning haze that really made us feel like we were, well, in the Smokies. It took us about 4 hours to complete the loop, but we also stopped at most of the stops as we were determined to take it all in. We recommend collecting a map at the beginning of the drive to make your visit even smoother.
One of the reasons why we loved Cades Cove so much is because it's one of the best preserved examples of a traditional Southern Appalachian mountain community. And it's the perfect way to see how these European American settlers lived, farmed, worshipped and built communities in the Smokies during the 1800s and early 1900s. Our favorites of these historic buildings include the John Oliver Place, the Primitive Baptist Church, the Methodist Church, the Missionary Baptist Church, the Dan Lawson Place, the Tipton Place, and the Cable Mill Historic Area. That includes a grist mill still in its original location and many other historic buildings, alongside a visitor center. All these buildings will transport you straight to the heart of the Appalachian culture, and we found it quite moving to be walking around these places that were once the heart of this thriving community.
Another reason why we were excited to visit Cades Cove was to spot some black bears. Well, for the first couple of hours we could only spot the occasional deer and turkey, which, don't get us wrong, are incredible, but it wasn't until we went on a short hike to reach the Elijah Oliver cabin that we spotted our first black bear, before realizing that there were 6 others around, luckily meters away from us. And being the only 2 people on the trail at the time, we got really nervous and left, but it definitely gave us a thrill.
Before we move on to our next favorite location, a little note about parking. Because the national park historically cannot charge an entry fee, you are required to pay for a parking tag. So make sure this is the first thing you do when you enter.
The next place we recommend in Great Smoky Mountains National Park is Clingman's Dome, officially renamed Kuwohi in 2004, restoring the traditional Cherokee name meaning Mulberry Place. Kuwohi is the highest point in the park and in all of Tennessee, and on clear days, visibility can exceed 100 miles. Well, as you can see, nature had a different plan for us. After all, this is one of the wettest places in eastern US. But this didn't stop us from walking the 0.5 mile trail to reach the iconic viewing point, while hoping for the weather to shift. The trail is short, but can feel harder because of the elevation. When we finally reached the distinct concrete spiral ramp and the viewpoint at its end, we realized there was no way the clouds were going to go, so we embraced the beauty of the wet weather and the smokiness of the Smokies.
Yes, the view from the top might have not been what we expected, but experiencing the smell of the spruce and fir trees around us and the sound of the quiet afternoon storm while above tree level was still one of our highlights. On the way down, we loved to admire the thickness and moodiness of the woods from the main trail path. The forest was so alive and so incredibly beautiful, and somehow It felt like the most perfect Smoky Mountains National Park moment. We can totally understand how the combination of high elevation forest, short summit walk, and observation tower makes Kuwohi one of the park's signature experiences. On the way down, there is also a small visitor center to the left.
Our next favourite place in Great Smoky Mountains National Park is the Roaring Fork Motor Nature Trail, one of the most immersive drives in the Smokies. While Cades Cove is about open valleys and wildlife, Roaring Fork is about being inside the forest, with rushing streams, mossy rocks, waterfalls, and historic Appalachian homesteads. This is a one-way, 5.5 mile long drive, and the road is very safe, but at times narrow and winding. After all, this was an old wagon road for the small Appalachian community that lived along the stream. We visited in the afternoon, which was the perfect time to avoid some of the crowds.
Our favorite stop along the road was the Grotto Falls Trail, a fairly easy 2.6 mile round trip with a slight elevation gain that leads to a beautiful waterfall. The path is very well maintained and absolutely beautiful, and the waterfall is one of the most distinctive in the Smokies because you can walk right behind it. We highly recommend it.
And if you want to see another unique waterfall while you visit this area, how about the Place of 1,000 Drips? This is a broad rock wall covered with dozens of tiny cascades and trickles, which is how it got its name. After a good rain, it's apparently even better. This is on the side of the road towards the end of the drive.
And of course, when you are driving the Roaring Fork Motor Nature Trail, you can also visit the many historic Appalachian buildings, including the Noah Bad Ogle Place, that has also a beautiful path that takes you deeper into the forest, the Alex Cole Cabin and the Jim Bill's Place, the Ephraim Bill's Cabin, and the Alfred Reagan Tab Mill. And last but not least, we recommend a stop at some of the many viewpoints along the drive. The views are sensational.
Next up is Newfound Gap Road, the main scenic highway through Great Smoky Mountains National Park. If you drive only one road, this is usually the one, as it connects Gatlinburg, Tennessee and Cherokee, North Carolina, cutting through the park. The road is stunning, and we absolutely recommend stopping at some of the many viewpoints along the way. We couldn't pick our favourites as most of them took our breath away, and some others didn't want to show themselves, but still this drive and these viewpoints are a must-do.
One of the stops you can't miss along Newfound Gap Road is Newfound Gap. This is where the road crosses the crest of the Smokies, and in a way, it's the heart of the national park, as it's right in the middle. We absolutely love this stop, because from the parking lot you can easily walk to so many highlights, like the Appalachian Trail, that crosses the road right at Newfound Gap, and you can easily join if you wanted the chance to walk a section of it. The Tennessee-North Carolina state line, where you can literally stand in both states at the same time. And the Rockefeller Memorial, that marks the spot where President Franklin D. Roosevelt formally dedicated Great Smoky Mountains National Park in 1940 and honors the Rockefeller family's financial contribution to the park. And of course, wherever you're standing in Newfound Gap, you'll get stunning views of the Smokies from anywhere you look. This is a stop you don't want to miss.
Our next two favourite places in Great Smoky Mountains National Park are on the quieter North Carolina side of the park and just a short drive from Newfound Gap.
The first one is Mingus Mill, one of the most famous historic structures in the Smokies. This is a preserved 1886 grist mill that was powered by a still water turbine, a more advanced technology for its time when most mills were using a large water wheel. Water from Mingus Creek was diverted through a long wooden flume into the turbine, which powered the millstones used to grind corn and wheat. It served over 200 families and is reached by a short, easy walk from the parking area.
The second one is the Mountain Farm Museum, located just behind the Oconaluftee Visitor Centre, which is actually our favourite visitor centre in the park, as it's huge and its exhibits are super interesting. The Mountain Farm Museum is an open-air collection of historic buildings that recreate a typical Appalachian farm. Many of the buildings are relocated from other parts of the park, and we love this area because it really made us feel immersed in the region's cultural heritage. There are many buildings including the large log farmhouse, a smokehouse, an apple house, a spring house used for natural refrigeration, corn cribs, a blacksmith shop, and also seasonal gardens and crops. Plus, there are plenty of free-ranging chickens running around and a beautiful river trail you can't miss. We also heard that there are often living history demonstrations happening here, so we'll just have to come back and see them.
Our next favorite place in Great Smoky Mountains National Park is actually not in the park, but in a way you can't visit the park without hitting these spots. And for us, they are such a big part of the Smokies experience. They are Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge.
Gatlinburg was originally a small Appalachian community, but after the establishment of the national park, it transformed into one of the most visited tourist towns in the eastern United States because it's right next to its entrance. We absolutely loved walking around its main street, browsing the many local stores, enjoying a moonshine tasting at one of Gatlinburg's moonshine shops, and having a walk around the village, our favourite area of the town with boutiques, cafes and gift shops arranged around brick walkways, courtyards and fountains.
And if Gatlinburg is the mountain resort town, Pigeon Forge is the entertainment town. Pigeon Forge is quirky and wacky, and we loved to see all of the unique museums and dining shows, but also visiting the Old Mill District, a historic grist mill that now hosts a variety of shops and food options. And it's no other than the one and only Dolly Parton, who helped Pigeon Forge become one of the biggest tourist hotspots in the US, with her constant support to the community and with the opening of Dollywood, which is one of the best theme parks we have ever been to, and the perfect place to ride a roller coaster while enjoying sweeping views of the Smokies all around you. Both Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge are perfect places to visit after a long day exploring the national park, and we couldn't recommend them enough.
We are almost at the end of our journey across Great Smoky Mountains National Park, but before we wrap up, we want to share with you some other places we recommend. They are the Sugarland Visitor Centre, the main visitor centre in the park and the perfect place to grab a map and start your Smokies adventure. The Elkmond Historic District, that went from being one of the biggest communities in the Smokies to be a popular mountain resort, and after the creation of the national park became a ghost town. And the Sinks, a partly man-made waterfall that is one of the most easily accessible landmarks in the park and is also the starting point for other hikes.
When we visited, we had also planned a few more stops, including the famous Alum Cave Trail. However, a landslide caused by bad weather closed a large section of the Newfound Gap Road, which meant we had to change our plans. Which is why one of our top tips is to always check road conditions and the National Park Service website before you visit.
So that's it for our favourite places to visit in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. We hope you enjoyed coming along with us exploring the Smokies. From the layer upon layer of mountains, forests, streams and history all woven together, there truly is nowhere else like the Smoky Mountains, and we now understand why it's the most visited national park in the US. We can't wait to be back for our second visit and to take you with us.
Thank you so much for coming along with us. And if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to never miss an adventure. We have so much in store you don't want to miss.
And now, see you down the road!